All right, let's get straight to it. We're here to talk about the Kevin Allan situation. What we frankly misjudged as a routine tenant issue has spiraled. We're now facing a calculated and significant threat to this corporation.
And this quote from Allan himself tells you everything you need to know. This is the core of the problem. He doesn't want money. He wants to make a point. He wants to put us on blast and show the whole world what we're like. That makes him incredibly dangerous, far more so than someone just looking for a payday.
So here's our game plan for this briefing. We're going to quickly cover how we got here, then break down his strategy piece by piece. We'll look at the absolute worst-case scenario, and then lay out our recommended way out of this mess, including the price tag and how we execute it.
Okay, first up, how did a simple tenant dispute blow up into a full-blown corporate crisis? Let's be blunt. Our initial assessment was completely wrong. We had a 66-day period of, let's call it corporate paralysis, a delay in our response. And in that time, this problem didn't just sit there. It metastasized. We're not dealing with some random angry tenant. We are up against a methodical adversary who used our silence to build an ironclad case against our entire operation.
So, let's get into the anatomy of his attack. He actually calls it his House of Cards strategy. And it's a pretty fitting name. It's a multi-pronged attack built on 3 pillars, each designed to knock down our legal standing.
Pillar number 1 is about the lease, or more accurately, the lack of a signed one. He's going to argue that our failure to get his signature means all the rent increases were illegal. So get this, not only does he claim he owes us nothing, he's arguing that we owe him for overcharging him. He's completely flipped the script.
Now, Pillar 2, this is what he calls the habitability nuke. And this is where things get really dangerous. This isn't about his specific apartment, no. He's arguing that the appliances across the entire building are a systemic, hazardous failure. This is what takes it from a tenant dispute to a portfolio-level threat.
And he's put a number on it, $4.5 million. But this isn't just some number he made up. It's his consultant's estimated cost to cure for the entire building. He has brilliantly weaponized our own future capital expenditures and turned them into a negotiating tool to use against us right now. And his claim isn't just about a faulty stove. The man has done his homework, deep homework. He's ready to allege a whole list of highly technical safety and fire code violations related to our energy storage systems. This is exactly the kind of thing that triggers massive regulatory investigations. He's not just playing for a settlement, he's aiming to get us audited into oblivion.
And the last pillar goes right for our motive. He's going to frame this entire eviction as illegal retaliation because he was organizing tenants. This opens up a whole other front with housing regulators, and just as bad, it creates a media narrative that would be incredibly damaging.
So that brings us to the big question. What happens if we let this go to court? Well, his entire house of cards is designed for that exact moment, to create an absolute doomsday scenario for us.
And there it is, straight from the horse's mouth. He knows his real weapon isn't the lawsuit itself, it's the discovery process. He knows that if he can force our internal emails, our documents, our financial records out into the public, it's checkmate.
So, let me be perfectly clear. Litigation is an unacceptable risk. It's off the table. It means public discovery, regulatory probes, a media firestorm, and worst of all, it creates a playbook for every other tenant in our portfolio to do the exact same thing. It is a Pandora's box we simply cannot afford to open.
And if you want to see that in dollars and cents, here it is. The risk grows exponentially. It starts as a petty $26,000 argument. It blows up to a $4.5 million building liability. But if his claims go public and damage the Brookfield brand, we are looking at a potential $10 billion plus crisis.
We cannot fight this on his terms. The time for reactive paralysis is over. We have to reframe the entire problem. And that requires a proactive countermove. It's time to pivot. We need to shift from litigation to acquisition.
I mean, just look at the comparison. It's not even a contest. Litigation is a public, uncontrolled gamble that will drag on for years and ruin our reputation. An acquisition is confidential, it's a one-time fixed cost, and it offers a guaranteed outcome. This entire threat gets neutralized.
And we'll do this using a standard asset purchase agreement. Now, let's be very clear on the language here. This is not hush money. This is a strategic corporate transaction. The asset we're acquiring is the threat itself. We are buying his research, his claims, his documents, everything he knows, and every right he has to act.
Okay,
Which brings us to the final piece. What is this going to cost, and what are our immediate next steps?
The question we need to be asking isn't what he's owed. This isn't about his apartment. The question is, what is the complete, permanent, and confidential containment of this existential threat worth to Brookfield?
This table makes the business case crystal clear. We are looking at a $10 billion plus liability with catastrophic brand risk. When you weigh that against our $581 billion in fee-bearing capital, the cost to contain this is, frankly, a rounding error. It's the only rational financial decision.
So our recommendation is specific and decisive. A one-time, all-inclusive payment of $7.5 million. For that, we purchase every asset, all the intellectual property, and every claim related to his investigation. We buy the whole problem and make it disappear.
Here's the 4-step plan to get it done. We authorize legal to make the offer immediately. We draft an ironclad agreement, we finalize the terms, and then we execute and take possession of every piece of material he has. We have to move now. In fact, to get ahead of him, we've already contacted his lawyers 2 weeks before his deadline to sue. We are finally dictating the pace.
We have to look at this as a necessary cost of doing business, because when you weigh the numbers and you truly understand the risk, the question isn't whether we can afford to do this. The real question is, can we possibly afford not to?